Good evening, welcome to ITV News and Monday night's calendar.
Yes, hello, good evening. Here are tonight's main stories.
Campaigners accuse Leeds Bradford Airport of putting profit before people as it seeks permission to fly unlimited flights during nighttime hours.
We're on the highway to hell with our foot on the accelerator. And if we're increasing flights, we're therefore increasing emissions, which is increasing temperatures, which is increasing suffering.
Save the lead mill! We all want to save the lead mill!
Also tonight, hundreds gather to protest over what they claim is a hostile takeover of Sheffield's iconic lead mill venue.
In sport, after the second coming, it's the second going as Huddersfield Town sack Neil Warnock, but fans will have the chance to say goodbye.
We've had a great time, haven't we? It's been super. Just get behind me on Wednesday night, and I'd love to finish on a win.
And music to our ears, the fruits of a multi-million-pound project restoring this incredible organ at Leeds Town Hall to its former Victorian glory. So, first tonight to the claims that Leeds Bradford Airport is putting profit over people, as it apparently seeks permission for an unlimited amount of flights at night.
Yes, the airport, which breached guidelines by flying almost 750 more planes than it should have at night last summer, has sought guidance from Leeds City Council on whether its new planes could fly between the hours of 11 p.m. and 7 a.m.
But campaigners say not only could this lead to sleep deprivation, but a loophole also means there'll be no public consultation, as Helen Steele reports.
Taking off for Alicante today, it's a sight familiar to many who live near Leeds Bradford Airport. But it's the sound that now continues throughout the night, which is causing a major headache.
You can actually see the planes taking off just behind these houses. They go along there and up and away.
Mark Clough lives less than a mile from the runway.
Obviously, if you move somewhere close to an airport, you've got to expect noise, and obviously that's fine. But when that increase gets to the point where it's constantly throughout the night, it becomes unbearable.
And things could get worse after campaigners claim the airport is seeking permission for unlimited flights at night. Further down the flight path in Leeds, this is what Andy Tate can hear dozens of times a day and up to 20 times at night.
So Quota 1 planes are currently 93 decibels. What does that sound like?
Well, that's like being at a rock concert.
He's part of the Group for Action on Leeds Bradford Airport, or GALBA, which keeps a close eye on airport activity. The airport hasn't applied for planning permission, but a so-called certificate of lawfulness, which asks the council to review current restrictions, but it doesn't require public consultation.
How important is public consultation with all this?
It's all done behind closed doors between the planning officers and representatives of the airport. So it's completely undemocratic, and for changes of this size, I really think it's the wrong mechanism.
Leeds Bradford Airport denies it's asking for unlimited night flights, but says it's simply asking for clarification on what exactly it is allowed to do here at night. Bosses say that when original planning permission was granted for night flights, that was 30 years ago, and it didn't take into account its newer, quieter planes. Quieter won't cut it for environmental campaigners, who say any extra emissions will speed up the climate crisis.
If we're increasing flights, we're therefore increasing emissions, which is increasing temperatures, which is increasing suffering.
For those enjoying the spectacle today, though, more flights could only be a good thing.
The good thing is for the airport is so many people will come here and tourists.
I've been looking at the departures to see if we could see any, and there's not many that go in and out, so it's probably good for the area.
And for travel experts, when it comes to expanding its operations, the only possible way is up for Leeds Bradford.
So given the infrastructure and the constraints of the current facilities, then they have to squeeze more out of that infrastructure.
Leeds City Council says it still has to comply with planning and environmental restrictions, but the wheels are in motion for what could be big changes at the airport and for those who live around it. Helen Steele, ITV News in Leeds.
Well, next tonight, it's played host to the likes of Pulp, Def Leppard and Oasis over the years. But the glory days of Sheffield's Leadmill could be over if campaigners' fears of what they claim is a hostile takeover are realised.
Today, hundreds gathered outside Sheffield's Town Hall to protest ahead of a council meeting over a new licensing application for the iconic venue that's been fought between its current management and the building's owners. Here's Martin Fisher.
We all want to save the Leadmill. We all want to save the Leadmill too.
Singing their support, hundreds of music lovers gathered in Sheffield city centre today to back the fight to keep the Leadmill an independent venue. The building's landlords, the Electric Group, want to evict the current management. For many against the move, it's seen as a hostile takeover.
It's full of really creative people who want to play in local venues, who want to shop in local shops, and I just think once one thing goes, what's next?
And it's just a nice place for alternative people to go as well. So to lose that iconic venue from Sheffield, it would be devastating.
I don't feel like they understand us as much, and I don't know, I don't want it to change.
And they're not alone. Since a notice of eviction of the current management, there's been support from the likes of Def Leppard, who returned to play the Leadmill recently, and Sheffield's own Jarvis Cocker.
This building and this stage, it's something that's grown over the years. It's a feeling. It's like a form of magic or something. It's something that's been here for people.
Now, this process here today comes ahead of a shadow licensing hearing by the council. That's effectively a hearing that can decide to put in place another licence should the current licence holders give that up and make a smooth transition. But that's far from the end of what's being dubbed as a battle for Sheffield's musical soul. There's expected to be legal proceedings next year. So this protest and concern for what may happen to the Leadmill could rock on for some months yet. Inside Sheffield Town Hall today, and it wasn't very rock and roll. Dominic Madden, the CEO of the Electric Group, defending how the business runs music venues.
I mean, the one commonality is that they actually are all concert venues which are enormously well respected by the music industry and the people, the communities in which they serve.
But the Leadmill's legal team questioned the detail in the application.
I'm Dominic Madden. I know my stuff and I know Elton John. So there's no reason for me to consider the Sheffield Statement of Licensing Policy. I don't need to do that. It will be fine. Trust me.
A decision by the council over a shadow licence is expected in a few days as two tribes go to war over the future of Sheffield's Leadmill. Martin Fisher, ITV News.
And of course, we'll let you know what happens now, and you're watching Monday Night's Calendar. Thanks for joining us. Still to come tonight in sport, taming the Lions. Leeds United lead the Den with all 3 points after beating Millwall there for the first time in over a decade.
And a dramatic start to the week when it came to the weather. Heavy thundery downpours this morning into the afternoon as well. Will things calm down though as we head through the next few days? I'll have your forecast later in the programme.
Now, a man who attempted to rape a vulnerable woman in Castleford after pretending to be a taxi driver has been jailed. 48-year-old Raja Gulraz from Sheffield was found guilty following a trial at Leeds Crown Court of attempted rape and sexual assault.
Well, during the trial, the jury heard from the victim who said the attack had impacted every aspect of her life and that she mourns the person she once was. Our reporter Adam Fowler's in the studio with us now and he's been following the case. Adam, it's a shocking story, this, isn't it?
It certainly is, and it all happened back in June 2021 when the 48-year-old parked his car near a taxi rank in Castleford. His victim got in after he told her that he was a taxi driver, and it's on the journey home that he sexually assaulted her and tried to rape her. The jury heard how Raja Gulraz as well was linked to a similar event in the town in 2018, and he was sentenced to 11 years. Now, in court, his victim, there was a personal impact statement from his victim. She said, "I no longer walk anywhere at night. I can't go down a certain street, and until recently, I couldn't even walk from my car to my front door without asking my mum or my partner to be waiting at the door for me. The incident has impacted every aspect of my life on a daily basis and has changed me to someone whom I don't want to be. I grieve the person I once was.
And Adam, what have West Yorkshire Police had to say about this case?
Well, they've praised the victim, saying that she showed great bravery, especially for standing up in front of her attacker in court and recounting her ordeal in order to stop a similar thing happening to anyone else. And they also hope that her bravery may inspire other victims of similar crimes to come forward. They also added, of course, that now a dangerous predator is behind bars for a long time.
Thank you very much, Adam Fowler. Thank you. In other news tonight, a man will stand trial next year after a fire caused more than £2 million worth of damage to a Michelin star pub in North Yorkshire. The Star Inn in Hareham was devastated when the fire ripped through the roof of the 14th century pub in November 2021. Charles Burkett, who's 28, has been charged with arson. He appeared at York Crown Court today and a trial date has been set for next July.
People living in parts of North Yorkshire have been mopping up today after heavy rainfall overnight hit a number of homes and left cars stranded. This was the scene in the village of Snainton this morning, where fire crews were called out as houses were hit by flash flooding. Emergency services also responded to reports of cars stuck in deep water in Scarborough.
A consultation is due to be launched into the future of all but two of Kirklees council-funded leisure centres. The charity which runs them, Kirklees Active Leisure, says Huddersfield Leisure Centre and Spen Valley Leisure Centre are both safe from any changes. But all its other facilities are at risk because of increased costs and a reduction in its funding from the council.
Well, as cash-strapped councils look to make savings, many authorities are closing public toilets to cut costs, which, combined with issues like vandalism, means the number is falling across Yorkshire and Lincolnshire.
Yes, but for many people, not having access to a toilet can make it difficult to leave the house. Amrit Birdie reports.
For most of us, it's a given that a long day out will involve a loo break. But recent figures show the number of public toilets has dropped significantly over the past 5 years. And these people in Rotherham say a lack of loos hasn't gone unnoticed.
Them over there in Square, at the bus station. We need more toilets, definitely.
They're a disgrace, the smell. They're just... I wouldn't even put my dog in one, to be honest.
There's one there and there's one at the bus station, as far as I'm aware. I don't know, I've never used them.
For some, closed toilets can have serious consequences. Dominic's son Lucas has additional needs and can't always hold it.
When they hold events in town, we struggle a bit. I've got to be prepared and take an extra change of clothes for my son Lucas, because we have in the past been called out.
Not only do you have to be more prepared, but available toilets can also impact where some people socialise, and crucially, how long for.
It really stops you being spontaneous. You have to plan, you have to call up the venue. So you can't fancy the look of somewhere and go in and, you know, spontaneously decide to have a drink. So it really controls your life.
The number of public toilets has fallen by about 14% over the last 5 years. Around a quarter of councils say this is cost-related, and around a fifth say that it's other things, such as arson, vandalism and antisocial behaviour that are shutting our toilets. Those figures were revealed through a Freedom of Information request by the Liberal Democrat Party, and now they're calling for a new public toilet fund for local communities. More money for more loos is something the British Toilet Association has been campaigning for decades.
We've all got toilets in our houses. When we leave home, then we have to start planning our journeys and plan, particularly families with young children. You get older people who are coming out and wanting to go away, day trippers. There's 13 million people on the disabled register and another 10 million people who are over the age of 55 who suffer from things like prostate cancer or emotional and physical conditions as well. So that's a third of the population who need toilets urgently.
the government told us that they've announced up to £30.5 million of funding for local authorities in England to boost the number of larger accessible toilets over 3 years. But for people like Lucy and Lucas, sometimes waiting just isn't an option. Amrit Birdie, ITV News.
OK, well, it's time for some sport now and the region's first managerial change of the season.
Xero Accounting Software sponsors ITV Regional Sports Report.
And Chris is with us, of course, as always. And Chris, I was going to ask you how you are, but I know how you're pretty devastated about tonight's big top story in the sport.
Yeah, I'm gutted, really. He's always great value, Neil Warnock, except when he's ribbing me about having no hair. But yeah, he said in a press conference today that he was gobsmacked when he was told that he'd be leaving. Now, Warnock was given a hero's welcome when he returned for a second spell as manager of Huddersfield back in February, 20 years after his first. And against all the odds, he saved them from relegation in May, the players giving him a guard of honour. And after initially saying that was job done, well, Warnock signed a new one-year contract in June. Now, Town have had a tough start to this season, but they've won their last two, including Saturday's 2-0 victory over Rotherham. Well, Arif Armer was at a press conference today when it was announced that Warnock would be leaving. Arif, good to see you. Has Warnock had the chance to, will he get the chance to say goodbye to those fans?
Evening, Chris, but yes, he will, as his final game in charge of Huddersfield Town will come here at the John Smith Stadium on Wednesday night when they play Stoke City. It will be an emotional night from everyone involved, from Neil Warnock to the players to the fans, as he says his final goodbyes, and he wants to end his second reign at the club with a win.
We've had a great time, haven't we? It's been super. Just get behind me on Wednesday night, and I'd love to finish on a win. You know, not very often you win 3 on the trot, and it's going to be difficult, but it's a good club, and I'm looking forward to playing against them. And I think it's right. I don't think we could have carried on any longer than that.
So, Arif, was this Warnock's decision to call it a day?
Oh, absolutely not, Chris. This is very much a board decision. Now, Neil Warnock said he always knew his time at the club would come to an end. He thought it might be around Christmas by the time the new owners and new board got settled in, but he didn't expect it to be after what will be just 7 games in the Championship, and he says the news caught him very much off guard.
I was gobsmacked, really, but that's, you know, nothing surprised you in football. But once they've told me that, you know, I think you've got to move on quickly, really. You can't, I think, any job, not being disrespectful, if you're not wanted type of thing, you want to go straight away, don't you?
I know it's early yet, Arif, but any word on any possible replacement for Warnock?
Well, the board do have someone lined up to replace Neil Warnock. We don't know who that person is just yet, as the club look to implement what they call their long-term vision for the club. Now, as we say, the identity, we don't know who this person is, but Chief Executive Jake Edwards has said that he wants to have this person in place by the end of this week.
Arif Ahmed at the John Smith Stadium, thank you very much indeed. Now, across the Steel City, the fans vented their frustrations at goings-on at Hillsborough.
The Owls' winless start continues. Listen to the boos around Hillsborough.
Sheffield Wednesday boss Xisco Munoz apologised to those fans after their 1-0 defeat to Ipswich, in which they failed to register a single shot on target. Wednesday's only point this season came against Leeds, who yesterday put 3 past Millwall without reply. New £15 million striker Joel Pirot scoring twice, with Jorginho Ruta rifling home the third. A sumptuous goal at Barnsley in League One started with a pinpoint pass from goalkeeper Liam Roberts to James McAtee. He then played in Devante Cole, who took a couple of touches before curling in a sublime shot into the far corner. Cole scored a second later in the game to make it 8 goals already for him this season. Now, was it a cross or was it a shot? Whatever it was, Ben Close's goal 6 minutes into injury time brought up Doncaster's first win of the season. Could it be a turning point? Elsewhere, there were boos at Valley Parade, where Bradford had to come from behind against Harrogate to earn a draw thanks to a stoppage time equaliser from Jamie Walker. And Mansfield also scored late on to maintain their unbeaten start to this season.
Well, that's the football covered, Chris. What about the rest of the weekend's sport?
Yeah, well, as feared, Wakefield Trinity have been relegated from Super League after 24 years. They've put up a good fight, though, needing to win to stand any chance of staying up. Their game at Lee went to golden point extra time. Max Jowett fluffed the chance to make himself a hero. Sadly, Gareth O'Brien made no mistake. Wakefield will play in the Championship next season for the first time since 1998. That means Castleford are safe, despite their heavy defeat at Wigan. The problems mount for Leeds and their head coach Rowan Smith after the Rhinos slumped to a 61-0 defeat at Catalans, and Huddersfield scored 9 tries in a comprehensive win at Hull FC. Yorkshire's Harry Brook, who's from Burley and Wharfdale, has been selected in England's one-day squad for the Cricket World Cup next month. The 24-year-old replaces Jason Roy and is one of 5 Yorkshire players in the 15-man squad. And finally from me, as we suspected, King Charles and Queen Camilla were at Doncaster Racecourse on Saturday to see if the King's horse, Desert Hero, could win the St Leger. It couldn't. It came in third, with racing royalty Frankie Dettori finishing second in his final race at Doncaster. Continuous was the winner, and I was there at Doncaster on Saturday because that's how I roll now.
Not the Royal Box.
Hobnobbing with the Royals.
I rub shoulders with the Royals. That's what I do.
Get you. Thanks so
My
much, Chris.
goodness,
You're welcome.
he's full of surprises.
He is,
Chris
isn't
Dawkes,
he?
isn't he? Hey?
Getting ideas above his station now. Anyway, now it is one of Leeds' most recognisable landmarks, but has been partially hidden from view since hoardings went up at the start of a multi-million-pound renovation.
But tonight, we've been allowed to take a look behind the curtain at one of the most spectacular parts of the works to preserve Leeds Town Hall.
Yes, the organ, which has been a focal point of the hall since it was opened in 1858, is also undergoing a major restoration, and Michael Billington's been to take a look.
The faded glory of an enormous part of Leeds' civic history. Concealed for decades by layers and layers of paint, the original ornamental designs of 6,000 giant pipes from the spectacular Leeds Town Hall organ.
You just don't get a sense of how big and how significant this thing is until you actually take it apart and see these pipes laid out on the floor, all in 3 pieces. They're just enormous, up to 38 feet. Underneath this sort of magnolia paint was this very detailed stenciling, which we didn't even know existed. So that's all come off, and what people are going to see when they come in is this intricate paintwork in a way that was viewed for the first time when Queen Victoria came back in the 19th century.
It's just one part of a major restoration project on the Grade 1 listed building. Inside, scaffolding covers Victoria Hall. There, specialist artists have painstakingly stripped back the pipes, revealing their original artwork dating back more than 160 years to when the hall was opened by Queen Victoria herself.
We never imagined that it would just be this field of flowers, all golden flowers. It wasn't until we'd gotten into it that we finally found a true description that described it as just a richly decorated facade with golden ornaments.
Each of the gold leaf flowers now carefully replaced by hand, restoring the organ to its former glory.
We're putting them back the same way as what the Victorians did. When I look at them, they look regal. The colours, the red, the blues, and you know, like the designs on the mouths and everything. But the whole thing has just got something, having worked on 30 different facades of pipe cases, these are without any doubt the most elaborate and the most interesting that we've ever done.
I mean, the most amazing feeling is when all the pipes go back in their place and see them all go up, see everything line up, see all the design just work. Your heart beats, skips a beat.
The mechanics of this 70-ton organ, seen here before the works began, are also being replaced, so the sounds of the 1850s can once again echo around the walls of this imposing building. Michael Billington, ITV News in Leeds.
Wow, it looks amazing. I think we use the word painstaking sometimes, a bit too much, but that work that's gone on there, the application of those flowers.
I know, that gold leaf.
Very apt, yes. Some really talented, clever people coming together
really
to bring
delicate
that.
hands and fingers, don't you, to do that?
Yes, you do.
You really do. Right, so let's get the weather prospects now. Let's join Ross Hutchinson.
Good visibility on the horizon. TUI sponsors ITV Yorkshire Weather.
Hello, good evening. We've seen some dramatic weather today, particularly earlier this morning. Heavy, thundery downpours across parts of the region, bringing as much as 2 inches of rain in a short amount of time, leading to some surface flooding. Further thundery downpours as we made our way through the afternoon, but those have been clearing their way out towards the North Sea, and it is brightening up as we head through this evening. But it is the unsettled weather that's winning out as we head through the next few days. Showers, sometimes longer spells of rain in the mix as well, and sometimes some blustery winds, particularly as we head into tomorrow. The setup at the moment is bringing areas of low pressure consistently by the UK. We've got the showers, the longer spells of rain, sometimes squeezes on the isobars here, showing it is turning blustery at times. But in all of this, actually, temperatures for the most part holding up about right for the time of year. For now then, as we head through the rest of this evening, some brighter breaks around, but still a scattering of showers. Some of those on the sharper side, but they'll ease as we pass into the early hours. Some clearer skies developing. So certainly in those more rural spots, temperatures will be dropping down into the single digits. Bit of a fresh feel to things as we head into tomorrow morning. And from the west, you can see that's moving its way in. So we're looking at these spells of rain. We do have a warning in place over western parts of the region. Over higher ground, could see as much as 50 millimetres of rainfall in just a few hours. Really setting in as we make our way through the day. A bit more fragmented the further east you go. Temperatures holding up at around 19 degrees, but it's blustery. Gusts around 40, maybe 50 miles an hour. As we head through the later part of Tuesday and into Wednesday, staying unsettled. Again, we're looking at showers and sometimes longer spells of rain. Have a good evening.
TUI sponsors ITV Yorkshire Weather.
Thank you very much, Ross. Well, I think that's it. Autumn's definitely arrived, hasn't it?
Yeah, well, my birthday's at the end of next week,
Oh,
and it's
just so you
always,
know.
yeah, just so you know, and it's always dark by 7 o'clock on my birthday, so there you go.
There you go. Autumn
What a
is
shame.
here and it's Ian's birthday. That's all from us for now.
Have a good evening. Good night.
Bye-bye.